So with the recent releases of Chapters 7 and 8 for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, we've gotten some pretty pivotal information and backstory in regards to Sephiroth, the Edge of Creation, and it kind of seems like we're forming a picture of what exactly Sephiroth's endgame actually is. And that's what we're going to discuss in today's video. First, I have to give a huge shout out to Maximilian Dude, who watched one of my videos on his stream, which is such a surreal moment. I keep thinking back to that video. It's a meme by now, but it's that guy who's working at a fast food restaurant and he's just like,
"Notice me, senpai, notice me."
That just keeps playing over and over in my head. Never in a million years did I think he would check out one of my videos. And if you were the person in his chat who recommended my video to him, please let me know in the comments down below. His chat was moving so fast that I couldn't keep up and see what was going on. And plus I got super nervous and I'm pretty sure I lost about 10 pounds purely from pooping and vomiting out of pure nervousness. But out of him watching my video and him watching the Ever Crisis stuff came a really brilliant discussion about Sephiroth and what exactly his goals could potentially be. So we're going to take that in combination with some comments that were left on my previous video to try and figure out what the heck is Sephiroth doing. And the first thing I want to start off with is the Sephiroth that we see at the Edge of Creation. Clearly this is a different Sephiroth. This is probably not the Sephiroth that we've been battling in Remake as well as Rebirth. And again, those versions of Sephiroth are kind of all over the place. They're kind of clones, some are in Cloud's head. They're not technically the true Sephiroth. And we do know from the Ultimanias that there are multiple versions of Sephiroth. I think the developers even went on to say that there's at least 4 different versions of Sephiroth in this world. And the one we saw at the Edge of Creation at the end of Remake, I don't even think shows up in Rebirth. The only other time we see this guy is in the Ever Crisis Chapter 7 and 8, when we see him again at the Edge of Creation reliving all of these memories from when he was a teenager, essentially. Now, is this Sephiroth a good guy? I keep watching that scene over and over again, and I don't really detect any malice from him or any manipulation. He seems very genuine in what he's saying to Cloud, and he truly believes what he is telling Cloud. He wants to work with him. He wants to team up with him to defy destiny. So I think his intentions are in the right place, but is he a good guy? Probably not. This is still Sephiroth that we're talking about here. He's still been molded and shaped by some pretty horrific events, manipulated by Genova and Hojo, although the Sephiroth at the Edge of Creation seems to be free of all of that. I don't detect like any type of Genova within him in this sequence. He doesn't seem to be under any influence of that type. He's acting on his own volition. Which leads to, what exactly is Sephiroth's endgame? That was the first question that was asked in the very first reveal trailer for Rebirth. What is Sephiroth's endgame? And by the time we finish Rebirth, we still don't even technically know, which is unfortunate. But looking at what happens in Ever Crisis, there's a massive emphasis on Sephiroth wanting to be a hero who can save everybody, even if it means risking his own life. And we see that over and over and over again. When they're on the island with Rosen and he's pleading with Rosen like, look, let me help you, let me save you, let's get out of here, otherwise you're gonna die. And Rosen gives him that ultimatum of, look man, you can either kill me and save your friends, or we're all just gonna die. You can't save everyone, which goes against what Sephiroth was trying to do so hard to save everyone. So in that moment, he realizes, I can't do that. I have to kill Rosen if I want to save Glenn, Matt, and Lucia, and myself, and we all get out of here alive. And I think that is becoming like the crux of Sephiroth's motivation, wanting to genuinely save people. We see even more of that in the flash forward when we're in Wutai at Fort Tamlin, and Sephiroth again puts his life on the line to save these Shinra infantrymen. He's defeating all of these monsters to the point where he's exhausted. He drops to one knee, yet when another monster appears, he gets up and continues to fight because he feels, I have to protect and save everybody. But he slowly starts to realize that's not always going to be possible. And again, they focus a lot in those chapters on compassion, and Sephiroth talking about this cycle of hatred that feels like it's never going to end, but he knows that there is some sort of way to break that cycle, whether it's compassion or something else. And we slowly see that Sephiroth's kind of being manipulated by all of that stuff by Hojo as a preteen as he gets older. Hojo even goes as far as to manipulate Sephiroth in one of the most devious, downright disgusting ways possible by giving him that locket that has a picture of his mother. Now, for the Final Fantasy fans, we know who that woman in the locket is. It's Lucrezia, or as Vincent would say, Lucrezia. But Hojo tells Sephiroth, that's your mom, Jenova. That is so sick and twisted to give him half of the truth of who his mother actually is, and then the other half is just a complete manipulation of, yeah, he technically had some of those Jenova cells implanted into his embryo, but his real life mom existed and she was Lucrezia, and unfortunately Hojo is the father. But that brings us back to the edge of creation in Sephiroth and what his goal actually is. And this was brought up by Max on his stream, and I think it's actually really brilliant, and we can go even deeper into it. But Max thinks that Sephiroth is having his Thanos moment, essentially, where yeah, he actually does want to save people and potentially save the planet, which was confirmed by the developers. They said Sephiroth is looking to save the planet, or I believe extend the life of the planet is how they worded it. But the path that he's gonna go down to do so might be kind of messed up and gnarly, which is technically what a Thanos type character does. His intentions are technically good. He wants to balance humanity and save people, but by doing so, he's gonna have to eliminate half of the population, humans and animals alike, which obviously as a person, you do not want to happen. You don't want to lose people in order to save people. You can't let Sephiroth take away those baby chickens at all the chocobo stops. They're way too cute for that. Which again goes back to what Sephiroth experienced with Rosen. He wanted so badly to save this guy and save everyone, but he couldn't. So he had to make that really difficult choice to take that life in order to save others. And this Sephiroth is thinking about that. He's marinating on that experience. And I think he realizes, if I'm gonna go forward and actually do something decent and save people, I'm gonna have to do some really fucked up shit to do so. Or does Sephiroth's goal affect himself? If this Sephiroth is at the edge of creation and he's able to relive all of these different memories, then perhaps there's a chance where he has seen the memories where he is defeated, all of the outcomes where he is evil and he tries to beat Cloud in the party, but no matter what happens, they prevail. And it even goes as far as, with him being defeated, he leaves a little parting gift on the planet with Geostigma, which affects more people. So is his end goal to break that cycle of hatred like we went back to with that Ever Crisis scene? Does he want that cycle to end, regardless of whether or not it benefits him or is a detriment to him? Does he just want to not exist? I think when you do that, you kind of go into Arden territory from Final Fantasy 15, but in my opinion, Arden is one of the best villains in the entire franchise. So I think maybe taking a bit from him, couldn't really hurt things. And maybe that's why he's extending his hand to Cloud. He genuinely wants and needs Cloud's help, not because he's suddenly a good guy now. He's still Sephiroth, and deep down he's done some really horrible stuff. And again, the way he's gonna go about doing things is probably really messed up too, but he realizes, if I'm gonna enact this plan, there's probably something that's standing in my way, preventing me from doing that. What is that thing in his way? It could be one of two things in my head. Jenova stands out the most. Maybe this Sephiroth, who is free of the Jenova influence, is actually seeing like, wow, this creature thing really manipulated me and took advantage of me, and I do not like that. So we're gonna wipe her off the face of the earth so I can do what I need to do. And the other option, and this one might be a little bit more out there, and they would have to dig pretty deep down from Crisis Core, what if it's Minerva? I don't know too much about Minerva. I know that she's this ethereal being that's within the live stream. I know that she technically is the one that saves Genesis in that game too, if I remember correctly, but she's this all-powerful being in the live stream. So there's a possibility that maybe she's also standing in his way, or one of the people standing in his way, which is why Sephiroth is asking for Cloud's help again. He's not suddenly a good guy with a change of heart. He's still a bad guy who's gonna do some messed up stuff to get to where he needs to be to accomplish his goal, but he needs Cloud's help to do so because the ends justify the means for him. He's totally cool with eliminating specific people or doing certain bad things in order to get the good stuff done. And that is so brilliant because it still stays in line with who Sephiroth is as a character. He's still technically a bad guy who's done and will continue to do bad things, but his intentions to him are good. And some of the best villains in video games and comic books, movies, TVs, in pop culture media are the ones who are the heroes of their own stories. To them, what they are doing is right, and everyone else is wrong. And if you get in my way, I'm gonna cut you down. Which makes Sephiroth even more brilliant of a character. He's not just some Genova bad guy now who snaps. There's intention there, there's motivation there for what he is doing. And to Sephiroth, he's doing the right thing, or at least planning on doing the right thing. To that Sephiroth anyway. Again, there's multiple versions floating around out there, and we still don't have a very clear picture on what exactly is going on. And I really just wish that they would have taken a lot of this Ever Crisis story stuff and given us just even a little nugget within Rebirth to really get people's minds going and to help set up Remake Part 3. Because something that I mentioned in a previous video was that Remake had the luxury of setting up Rebirth. They could leave breadcrumbs and end things on a cliffhanger and keep the player guessing. Rebirth also had that same luxury of setting up Remake Part 3, but there's not going to be a Remake Part 4. There's Remake Part 3, and that's it. So they really need to do a really good job of giving us all of this story stuff spread throughout Remake Part 3, all of these breadcrumbs, instead of saving everything for the very end of the game. We have to give the player that, as Maximilian Dude describes it, that catharsis of Sephiroth, his story, the ending. We have to feel that cathartic moment when we finish that game. It has to feel satisfying. And it can be very difficult to stick the landing on these types of stories, but based on what they're doing so far, I think that they can do it. And again, these developers, based on what I played on Remake, Rebirth, and read in developer interviews and the Ultimanias, they don't do things just to do things, whether it's in the Remake project or now Ever Crisis. Everything that they do has a purpose. Gameplay stuff, mechanics, how they name their enemies, musical cues, even the color schemes of certain settings and areas all play a massive part in the storytelling. And I think showing a lot of the Ever Crisis stuff and having us experience that in Remake Part 3 is going to be something that they should do. And someone in Max's chat had the brilliant idea of, what if you open Remake Part 3 with the young Sephiroth Ever Crisis stuff? So we get to not just watch it, we get to experience what he's going through. A lot of that angst of not knowing who his mother is, the pressure of wanting to be the best and be a hero that saves people, and feeling kind of overwhelmed by it at moments. That is technically the core of who Sephiroth is going to become, and it shapes whatever that motivation is ultimately going to be for him. So there's been a lot of crazy stuff happening within Ever Crisis and these lore dumps, and people are starting to put 2 and 2 together, and we're kind of shaping a bit of a picture of what's going to happen in Remake Part 3, and it's incredibly exciting. And I think so far they're doing a really good job with Sephiroth. Again, you have to be very careful when you explain a villain. You can't over-explain a villain or its origins, because then you can sometimes take away the mystique and the fear of what that character brings. Again, I used the explanation a very long time ago of Michael Myers, this shape, this creature that just kind of shows up and starts murdering people. And in the original Halloween films, he was pretty much just the boogeyman. They did make some attempts on explaining like who and what he was, but they didn't go too far with that. But the Rob Zombie movies came around and they tried to explain every facet of who Michael Myers was, and it killed the mystique and fear of that character. And whenever he came around, I wasn't really scared anymore. So that's that fine line that they're gonna have to straddle with Sephiroth. And so far, I think they're actually doing a really good job of getting us to feel compassion and empathy for him, but not necessarily siding with him and viewing him as a good guy. Now, I do want to add this in very briefly. Perhaps a redemption for the Sephiroth that is at the edge of creation isn't out of the realm of possibility, because there's this really symbolic shot in the Wutai scene with Sephiroth that was pointed out by Audrey on Twitter, where Sephiroth is standing in a way where the cloud behind him in the sky is forming a wing, a white wing at that. So maybe there is within the realm of possibility that that specific Sephiroth on the edge of creation is redeemable, or is willing to help out Cloud without any nefarious means or without doing anything bad. We never really know, and again, these developers, they like to drop symbolic stuff like this a lot. But with that being said, that is the video. I am Curious Corduroy. If you made it this far, holy crap. Let me know by dropping a Lucrezia in all caps in the comments down below. And again, thank you to Maximilian Dude for checking out my video. That was such a surreal moment. And again, if you were the person who recommended that video, let me know in the comments down below. That was really awesome of you to do, and I never thought in a million years that would ever happen. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think of all of this stuff? What are your own personal views on Sephiroth and what you think he's gonna do? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.